You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 49, Lois Lane, Murderer.
Bum, bum, bum.
Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Ed, and 1,000 miles over there to my left is another host, Mr. Steeven Orr.
Hello.
All right, now I have an announcement to make.
Okay.
So far, Miss Terry Moore of the YouTube commenting here and myself have decided that we are going to South Carolina Con in April, probably for 2 days, and Heroes Con in June, probably for a day. So far. So it is the beginning of our con schedule.
Heroes Con, that's over in North Kakalaki.
That's in Charlotte. And South Carolina Con, if he hadn't bugged out on us, the weenie, is down there where Mr. Chris Parton used to live in Greenville.
Well, I've got Planet Comic-Con every year that's practically in my backyard, and I've gone once, maybe in the last 15, 20 years. So,
Well, now, I will say, different comic book fans will go to conventions for different reasons.
Yeah.
At this point, I think Terry and I primarily have two things that we want to do, so it kind of dictates when and where we go. One thing is we really enjoy how much we support is kind of another issue, but we really enjoy seeing all of the burgeoning creators with their wares. We do pick up stuff, but I think probably we just walk on by as many as we do support. Obviously we can't support everybody, but so we really enjoy that. And the other thing is we enjoy bin diving for back issues. That's a biggie.
Yeah. See, the two main reasons I would go, well, the three reasons I would go to a convention: one, to buy stuff, be it back issues or whatnot. Two, to meet creators.
Okay.
And hopefully, I'll say hopefully get something signed, but not because, I got an autograph, I'm going to turn around and sell it. No, it's just, for me, it's an easy way to meet a creator rather than just walking up and saying, hey, I don't have anything for you to sign. I just want to say hi, which I have done before. I did that with Scotty Young. The one time I did go to Planet Comic-Con in the last 20 years. Scotty Young.
I don't think they mind that.
I don't think they do. Him and Cullen Bunn, I talked to both of them at that con, and there was nobody at their table. And I just walked up and said, hey, I just wanted to tell you thank you because, with Cullen Bunn, I think The Sixth Gun was out at the time. And I said, I love this book. And but the third reason I would go is for panels. I always enjoy some of those panels.
Okay.
But man, Planet Comic-Con is freaking expensive to get into.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
Is it part of the Wizard World stuff, or maybe not Wizard World, but part of New York?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
What is the group? They own New York and they do some others. A la Wizard, but not. Yeah. I can't think of what they call their group.
But it's really. You've got New York on the East Coast. You've got San Diego on the West Coast, and then when it comes to big conventions in the central part of the country, it's like Kansas City and Chicago. So
yeah, I was going to say, does Chicago count geographically for what you're thinking? Yeah, the C2E2.
Yep. Well, I today, as we're recording this, March 21st, I finished editing episode 3 of Hither Named Conan.
Cool beans.
And found myself jumping into a bit of a rabbit hole because as I'm editing, there's a point in the show where I'm talking about the Conan's his chronology, the life of Conan, basically, and how I've probably mentioned it on all 3 episodes that the Frost Giant's daughter is his first adventure, even though it was never published until I think after Robert E. Howard died. But as I'm listening to it this time and I hear myself say that, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if that is actually a fact. I keep saying it as if it's a fact. And so I look up, I just did a Conan chronology, and oh boy, talk about a heated debate topic. There are scholars, Conan scholars, editors who have worked on the series of books after Robert E. Howard died, other writers that have written the Conan stories. There is like, I go to this website that's like, shows me 6 different Conan chronologies. And I'm like, what does that mean? And so I start reading through and it's like, all right, so it started with like a couple of fans back in the 40s who wrote a letter to Robert E. Howard and said, we love your Conan books. This is how we see the chronology of Conan's life based on your short stories. And I guess he wrote back and he said, that's pretty close. I kind of think of it like this. And I guess one of the big hotly debated topics is when the Frost Giant's daughter falls within that chronology, because some folks put it like in the middle when he's in his mid-20s, and other folks put it as his first adventure. And so after a while, I'm just like, I got to walk away. At least I know that there are some people that think it's the first, his first adventure. So I'm not going to feel, because I was thinking, I think I may have to, if I discover that I'm wrong, I'm going to have to record some kind of retraction, put it up on the episode. But yeah, the more I learn about freaking Conan, the more amazed I get at just some of the stuff that's out there. The fact that his first story, he was already a king, that blew my mind. And then these various people that have tried over the years to sort all of the stories, not just his, but the stories that came after, into some kind of chronology. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, given a very small set of parameters, if those kind of informations aren't given, you really can't. I mean, unless, a reference to another character in a one-off passage maybe or something. Okay. But I could see, particularly at the time, that not only Robert Howard, but the pulp concept was out there. That was the very farthest thing from their mind.
Yep.
Character, story, get it out there. That was, I mean, that was, they're like, they make fun of like Stan Lee about how he misses the names of characters and all this. I'm like, that had to have been going on back then too, that for what was the dude that was strong and had golden skin? Doc
Savage.
His driver probably had 3 or 4 different names, or his chauffeur, not the, just because it's like, that's not what the dude is writing about. He's writing about Doc Savage. And so, so it's like, and then you're like, oh no, this one came before that one. It's like, oh, please.
It's, because in my mind, I feel like I had probably read somewhere that Frost Giant's daughter was one of the first. And at least when it came to just the Robert E. Howard stories, it was, as far as Conan's life, his first adventure. But the one chronology I kind of read through where he was also saying Frost Giant's daughter has got to be first. A lot of people go back to, I guess, this original chronology that these 2 fans back in the day put together. Okay. And the guy points out, first of all, you got to understand that Frost Giant's daughter hadn't been released at that point. So that's why it's not included in their chronology, because it wasn't a thing.
Right.
Secondly, just the reason I looked it up, because episode 4 that I'm going to do next is the Tower of the Elephant. Conan's a thief. The scene in Conan the Barbarian where he and the guy scale the tower and they go in to steal the stuff. That's based on the Tower of the Elephant. So he is in the thieving part of his life at this point. And it's, as far as where Cimmeria is, the city where the tower is south. Whereas everything he does in the Frost Giant's daughter is north of Cimmeria. And so this guy points out, it's like, well, first of all, Frost Giant's daughter wasn't even written at the time of that chronology. Secondly, because apparently there's a copy of that letter out there that Robert E. Howard wrote back to these guys and said, you got most of it right. I like to think, though, that after Conan left Cimmeria, he didn't go south, he went north. And so the dude's like, there it is, right there. Bam. Right. And he also, his other argument was he thinks a lot of folks who, because when they put their chronologies together, it's mainly because they're getting ready to release like a bunch of books
Okay.
re-release a bunch of books, and here's the order because this is the
To read
Conan's,
them.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And his argument is the reason why a lot of those folks put Frost Giant's daughter in the middle is because it's a story in which there's almost an attempted rape. Basically, Conan's trying to get this girl and rape her,
right?
And they didn't want the first story in the book to be about an attempted rape.
Or do you? Because then you show that Conan got better.
Exactly, growth. Yep.
Yes. Extreme growth from, rather than, oh, well, he was this and that kind of bad and he was a thief, tried to rape somebody. And then it's like,
right. Yeah.
How do you just throw that in there?
Right.
It's like, no. He was hardcore, didn't care, tried to rape somebody. And then you see, all this, and then he gave up thieving. And then you see, it's like, okay.
Well, and if that chronology is the actual chronology, then he would have been like 16 years old in that story. So, young, dumb, and how do they put it? Full of
yeah. Yep.
Not that it justifies anything.
No, not at all. But
that's not what I'm trying to do here. If you listen to the third episode, you'll hear my thoughts on that, because I actually got some listener feedback that I read in that episode.
Oh, cool beans. Alrighty, man, we good?
I'm good. My banter is done.
All right. Stay tuned for next episode's banter. We talk about some current comic books.
That's right.
I think I'm in the same boat as Steven, but we will see. All right, what we are going to look at. We see here that according to Steven, the Widder was Jerry Siegel.
Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Bus? Steven, Bus.
This is... I'm always putting these show notes together really like within 2 hours before we start recording. So it's a lot of copying and pasting. And sometimes I
didn't even notice that until right now as I'm sitting here reading it. Yeah. So Jerry Siegel wrote this, and then it was penciled and inked by Mr. Paul Cassidy. And that is courtesy of, as well as the cover date of October 1940, and an actual on sale date of July 10th, 1940. All info courtesy of Mike's Amazing World of Comics. So September, October, July, August, September. Yeah, so it's slipping to maybe about 3 months now.
Yeah.
But it has been like just 1 month separating, if that. So
well, and it's normally the cover date is later than when it actually goes on sale. So that's kind of weird. And I think it's the first time, it might be the first Superman issue where we have 2 months as the cover. It's the September, October issue.
Right. Well, is he bi-monthly at this point, or is he monthly?
I think so. I
think it's been
I know at
bi-monthly,
one point it felt like it was quarterly.
Right.
But I think it's bi-monthly at this point, because we seem to do like 3 Action Comics issues and then a Superman.
That would be probably quarterly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. So guys, in let's see, Lois Lane Murderer, the first story from Superman number 6. This is what happened. Lois Lane is suspected of murdering. Well, there you go. There's the title right there. Okay. Yep. Next. No. Lois Lane is suspected of murdering a jewel collector when she is found near the body of the man. And we'll get into it, but she was kind of found more than that. But Superman, wishing to help Lois prove her innocence, gathers the other suspects, which include John and Henry Davis, the victim's nephews, and Berkeley, the house architect. That is actually the architect of the house that the jewel collector lived in and where he was found.
Not the live-in architect.
Right, yeah, not the house architect. Yeah. The Man of Steel manages to gain the cooperation of the police and tricks Berkeley into confessing. He'd set up Lois and the others to take the blame for the crime while he escaped with the stolen jewels. Now, that is just a very short and not very coveragey kind of synopsis.
I mean, in essence, it tells you what happened, but it doesn't...
In very few words.
Yeah, it doesn't even give you a hint at 2 of the craziest things that Superman does in this issue.
Yep. So let's see what.
Let's talk about the cover to issue number 6 really quick, because first of all, it's very minimalistic.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Superman striking the Superman pose with his hands on his hips, and a white circle around him, and then just a really off yellow rest of the cover. But it's like an autographed 8x10.
That's exactly what it looks like is a photograph, and they just slammed the logo at the top on it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And he's very truly yours, Clark Kent, with Superman in parentheses. It's, hey buddy, you're not trying very hard to keep that secret identity secret.
Yeah, no, not doing that for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. So that it was the next page, which I guess I don't know if this would be the inside, because the book I'm looking at is not the actual book, of course. So I don't know if it was the inside of the cover or if it was the first page inside the book. But it has 2, 4, 6 panels of action with a actiony posed Superman in an oval in the midst of the surrounding frame.
Yeah, they did that in issue 5 as well.
It's much more actiony than the cover is.
Yeah, and it's almost the same kind of setup that they did in, it's obviously not the same art or the same little adventure scenes that they're showing, but it's right. Very similar to the setup that they used in issue 5.
So the synopsis is, it starts pretty accurately. Lois goes to talk to this jewel collector because she just thinks it'll be, things are slow at the paper. Yep. She says this will be good copy. I like that phrase.
You just froze up on me.
Oh, did I?
Yeah,
am I still frozen?
There you go. You're back.
Okay. To go talk to him about his gem collection, basically, and either his collection or what it's like to collect gems, or just whatever, just to have an article to put in the paper. So she goes to the house, and this is my first beef, because actually she does the same thing in the next story. The door is not locked, so that means she can go in.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that constitutes breaking and entering. It's not a matter of whether the door is open, locked. It's a matter of whether or not you have permission, is my understanding.
Right. Now, if, the way they kind of handle that nowadays, you'll see it in TV shows where they come to the door and they, hey, you home? Knock, knock, knock. And the door kind of goes and opens up a little, and then they're immediately suspicious. Is everything okay in there? And they open up the door. Oh, you're there. And then they come in to investigate why the door is open. Lois is just like, well, nobody's answering the door, but the door's open, so I'll just walk in. She actually says it. No one answers, and the door is open. I'll walk in. Those are her exact words.
Yep, that's what she says. Trespassing, maybe. Yeah, rather than B&E. Yeah, maybe trespassing is more accurate. So as soon as she goes in, she gets the chloroform cloth over the mouth, kind of knock her out. KTFO, as the kids say nowadays. We cut back to the paper. We cut back to Clark. He went to talk to the police to see if there's anything interesting going on, while Lois went to actually talk to this jeweler. Well, he gets there, and there has been a call to the police about a situation involving this same jeweler. Now, I don't think that Clark necessarily reacts really in any way, but he knows that she went to talk to this same jeweler because she talked about him by name, and the police officer dropped that same name.
Yeah, he doesn't. He just. Yeah, I don't know I don't know if that's just a problem with the writing. They just did. Oh, yeah, that's right. He knew she was going. But.
Yeah. So basically, the officer invites Clark on a ride along, is what it is, and a competing reporter sees Clark in the car and knows something must be going on, and he inserts himself into the car as well.
Jumps onto the running board of the moving car and just slides in through the open window. Scoop Carter is his name.
Of course it is. Yeah, of the Morning Pictorial.
Yeah, and this is who I assumed the killer was, because he's introduced very early, and I just assumed, and so when it wasn't, I was a little disappointed.
He does have a rather aggressive, off-putting kind of personality, so it would be, well, he is the killer, and he's going to try to steer them into something else because he's a reporter, and
Yeah, my thought was, like Lois and Clark, he is a reporter, he's a news hound that's out there just trying to dig up a story, and he just figured he would make one by killing a famous wealthy guy.
It was really slow for him, too.
Yep.
So here we see something that we haven't seen that often, and actually we did see it in the previous story, but I didn't mention it. Clark uses his X-ray vision
Yeah.
to scope some things out. He did that looking into a tent, looking for
Yes.
the thief in the previous story, and I
Yep.
neglected to mention that. But here there's something interesting about the house, the design, which normally would be just a throwaway, perhaps, but the fact that the architect of the house also gets involved in this
Yeah.
story makes it a little bit more interesting, and we find out why the house is the way it is.
Yeah.
But it's a house of doors, uh, pretty much, kind of like you would envision in the previous story, say a hall of mirrors or
Yeah.
a tent of mirrors. Only this is a house of doors for the same reason. The doors are intended to disorient people because this dude has a gem jewelry collection, and so anybody that would get in and try to do something would get lost, or come to find out would get locked in
Yeah.
because apparently from the main entry part of the house, the doors all lock on that side. So
Yep.
if you go in and the door
You,
closes, you're
you're,
automatically locked in the next room,
yeah. You go in, but you're not coming out.
not coming out. So they go in, and Norval's on the floor, shot in the back. And immediately, Mr. Newshound, what was his name? Carter,
Scoop
picks
Carter.
up the phone and starts relaying the message to his copy editor. And then when he gets done, rather than handing the phone to Clark, which is what Clark asked, he rips it out of the wall and says, "Oh, here you go. Oh, I'm
That's
sorry. Look at that."
that is that is number 3 of my top 3 favorite moments in this story.
Okay. So they keep investigating things, and Clark slash Superman has heard some noises from another room that they haven't gone into yet. And when they go into that room, they find Lois. So Lois is more than just whatever the synopsis said. She's in the house
Yeah.
with the body alone. It's only her. There is a dead body, and they come and they suspiciously find both. So she is implicated more than just a little bit
Yeah.
so far.
She's the prime suspect.
Absolutely, with good reason. I mean,
Yeah.
she said, "Oh, my head, I don't remember it." It's like, well, of course that's what you're saying. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's like, well, you're not helping us out any. And so the officer just arrests her, just flat out. "I'm sorry,
Yep.
but I'll have to arrest you for the murder of Norval." And that's it. So here we see Carter. He's like, "Dang, why did I mess up the phone? I should have called this in." But yeah, he's not able to because he
Yeah.
ripped the phone out of the wall.
But we learn, not to spoil anything, but we learn by the end of the story, there's obviously another phone in the house, which Lois uses to call in the story. And he's like, oh, she got
Right.
to the other phone.
Right. Yeah. She called it in before I did. It's
Yeah.
like, well, Carter, if you hadn't ripped the other phone out, you could have used it. And while Lois was using it. Yeah. So Clark changes to Superman, chases after the police car that they're taking Lois to jail in, to actually, I think they say to prison, which
Yeah.
I thought was kind of wow. So he helps Lois escape, or he facilitates her escape, which I made a note of that because that's kind of no. I mean,
Yep.
I understand, the rest of the story trying to prove her innocent, but I can't imagine that you free
Yeah.
someone and then try to prove them innocent, because if it wasn't uphill to begin with, boy, it's really uphill now what you're having to prove because you helped her escape custody.
Yep.
So, and here on page, I don't know, whatever this is, where he's somersaulting over the car to get away from the cops, opens the door and gets her out. This big panel where he's holding her, tell me he's not flying.
Right. There's actually a note
flying
on Mike's Amazing World of Comics. For some of the issues and stories, he puts comments in there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a comment on this one that says, Superman appears to be flying, but he's still supposed to only be jumping. But no, he's flying.
Now, I'm not sure if it occurs again later in this one or in the next story, but there's a panel that even more so makes it look like he's flying. So
yeah, I think it's the next one.
Okay, yeah. So he carries her off. They go back to Norval's house because Superman is going to look for clues and whatever.
and real quick, talking about the flying, because basically when they go to the house, he lands on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he's flying, he can gently land on the roof. If he's jumping, then he's falling out of the sky like a frickin' meteor. He would just go right through that roof.
Okay. I can't argue that. That's, yeah. You know, and if not, okay, well, no, Superman can control his weight to land.
Then
if he can do that, can he not fly?
Yeah, right.
So it's, okay. Now, if it had been on the street like we see constantly, it's like, okay, maybe he left a dent and they just didn't draw it, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, no, here he's landing on the roof of the house, falling at, remember, kids, 32 feet per second squared. That is the velocity of something dropped in Earth's gravitational pull. That's not escape velocity. That's a completely different concept. So yeah, to get what is it? The guards? Yeah, this is to draw the guards out of the house. I'm like, guards? What are they guarding?
They're police officers, and they're still there. The body is still there, basically.
They're investigating. Yeah, but yeah. So he's drawing the guards out, and then he starts, digging and snooping around. He checks out the body over here. They come in, and here again, story number 2. They shoot at him. He catches some bullets, which is pretty cool. He tosses them to the one officer here, and my first thought was, wonder if those puppies are still hot, and he's tossing them to him. Yeah. And the one officer has turned his revolver on his face.
Right.
And he's looking at it because it didn't work. He's like, huh? Well, hang on, dude. It'll work here in a minute.
Idiot.
Just hit it a couple times. And yeah. So here, Superman says, I'm back here because I don't think Lois did it. And they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, where is Lois? Which also, is it here? I think it's here. They make a reference. It's the guy who escaped with Lois, with the Lane girl. Like, they don't know his name.
Right,
they don't know who he is, just that they saw him, just downtown a little while ago. So, but
as much as we're both looking forward to the issue where he legitimately starts to fly, I think we're also both looking forward to the issue where people stop not knowing who he is.
Yes. I mean, the thought is, wow, is Metropolis really that big?
Yeah.
I'll give it to you that in modern day New York, Chicago, or LA, if you live somewhere and perhaps you don't have the money to avail yourself of all the sources of information, maybe you don't know, but that would take a lot. It means you don't listen to the radio. You don't read a newspaper. Today, it means you don't watch television. And I guess there are people out there that don't do any of those. I don't know how they do it, but
you wouldn't even have to buy a newspaper. Just walk by a newsstand. He's been on the front cover a number of times.
Yeah. So, but still, what is this? We're almost 50 stories in, and there are people who act like they don't. Yeah. They've never heard of Superman.
Or I've heard the stories, but I never believed it until I saw it.
So he goes to, let's see, where does he go this time? He goes to John Davis's house. Who is John Davis?
One of the nephews.
One of the nephews. Okay. And he's not there. So, okay, here, this page, this next panel, he looks, he sees an airline timetable left here and a underlined or circle. The next panel, Superman speeds through the sky at such a terrific speed, his figure appears to blur. And in the panel, it does blur. He's not jumping there. He's flying. Not running. He's not on the ground. He's not running. Now, he does run in another place in the story because he even says so. But, I mean, okay. Just give it over, guys. Just
give in to your
that move.
Instinct. Yeah.
Just go. So he does catch up with the airplane, and he gets one of the nephews and carries him. You're a fan of that, aren't you, Steeven?
This is my number 2 in my top 3 favorite moments of the book. Okay. He leaps up to the plane, forces himself onto the plane. He's literally walking down the center aisle of the plane, and he says, which one of you is John Davis? And this guy's like, me? And he just grabs him and jumps off the plane with him.
Jumps out the plane. Yeah. First of all, he ripped a door open. What do they call it? The emergency door.
Yeah.
The plane is in flight. Okay. It's in the air. It's going to wherever it's going to go. So it's reached elevation, and Superman just catches up to the plane by jumping, of course, and just rips the emergency door off the plane and walks into the plane. Then
just kidnaps a passenger right off the plane. Apparently the pilot goes after him, but here's another. The pilot says, "Look at them soaring through the sky."
Yep.
And he's running through the sky again, and holding the guy under his arm, who's saying, "Don't go so fast. I can hardly breathe." And "You'll manage."
But yeah, there we go. But though the plane hits as high a speed as 250 miles an hour, Superman easily outdistances it by jumping. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So he lands with the one nephew and grabs up the other nephew. Right? Yeah. Finds something. Is this another X-ray? Yeah. Here's another X-ray vision. He sees that the dude is hiding something when he knocks on the door. Before he answers the door, he hides something that he's got. Superman gets it and finds that it's a piece of jewelry that Norval, well, you don't know that it was Norval's per se, but being a jewelry collector, here's a big expensive piece of jewelry. Norval is dead. He collects these things. So, I think you would call that circumstantial, but it's assumption after assumption after assumption. And that's what Superman does. And so that's what we're led to do as the reader. He tries to explain it. If you must know, my uncle sent it over, then phoned and told me he wanted me to sell it for him. It's it does turn out to be important that it happened, but you don't necessarily know that now. It's going to turn out to be the part of the aspect of the person who is responsible and what he's doing to set things up. So now Superman has a man under each arm, and he's going to the house architect. House architect, not the house architect.
The architect of the house.
Yes. It's like he's got him in residence there. He's the house architect.
Berkeley designed something for me today.
Yes. Got the patch there out by the garden. Build something. Yeah. Which is funny. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen somebody so rich to do that yet.
Right.
In this day and age, I would think over the top rich. They're so rich that So now Superman grabs the architect, and now he jumps off again with two dudes under one arm and one under the other. So now he's hopping around, whiplashing these men with three men in tow.
While that didn't make my top three, it's an honorable mention. The panel of him, because we talked in a previous episode where he had that one guy under his arm and the guy's laying backwards, so his back would have been broken. All three of these guys are laying the same way, face up, as he's holding them. So
now, is this next panel your number one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the honorable mention leads to my number one favorite moment of the book, and it's as Superman arrives at Norval's house with the three suspects. Rather than just take them inside, he throws each one of them through an open window inside, calling out, "There's the men you're looking for," to the police.
And they're just saying, "Back so soon?"
Yeah, exactly. It's, "Oh, you're back already," as three men come flying into the window.
Now here, Superman leaves, assuming that the police will retain these three men, right? Because he's going to go get Lois. This is the confrontation of the accused and the accuser and the Sherlock Holmes. That's it. The gather everyone, all the principals, and then go through and explain why they are guilty or not guilty. That's what we're all getting.
The wrap up.
We have the four suspects, counting Lois, Superman, who knows, quote unquote, what's going on, and officials, the police officers. So then he, first he kind of puts Carter in his place here with a little He-Man-ishness there. But he then Superman starts trying to explain who is the guilty party, but then he stops and he reaches behind this radio, and he appears to find something, and one of the policemen, the policeman in charge, sergeant, whatever he may be, asks him, I see you got something over there. What is it? Superman's like, well, come over here and I'll tell you. So they step out of the room. And I guess they didn't close the door because they didn't get locked out. Right.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay.
But I think that's part of the plan because they seem to overhear, or at least Lois does. She at least hears Superman use the term photographic library.
Right.
Laboratory. Yeah, laboratory, not library.
So Superman plays that there's a photograph of the killer in action at the moment that Norval is killed. And he's got the photograph.
If that would have been real, that would have been my favorite moment. The fact that he says there was a hidden camera set up, not a video camera. It is a hidden camera that was set up and designed to snap a picture at the sound of a gunshot.
Yes, it was sound activated. And and so they have a picture of the culprit here, and immediately the officer says, raise your hands, Berkeley, you're under arrest for the murder of Norval. And we go back and forth here a little bit. The Berkeley snatches a gun, shoots Superman. Okay, again, Superman gets shot in the chest. He is subdued, and we find out that, Superman was just joking. I didn't really have a picture. I just thought it was you, and, of course, you gave it away.
Yeah, that was a big gamble.
Yep, yeah. And then the final panel is the panel that you mentioned about how Lois is on a phone, probably in this same main room, because, I mean, that's where everything happened, calling in her copy of the story, and Carter's like, oh, dang, she got to the phone before me.
And I like how Clark's running in. I've got your bail money, Lois, as if he doesn't know everything that happened.
Well, but she wouldn't be here.
Right, yeah. Why would he come to the house with her bail money?
Exactly. She would still be wherever, and he would take so, okay.
So not only does he pose as a weakling, he also poses as an idiot.
I don't know. And now, of course, this is with, we both have much experience, life, reading, whatever. So we can kind of nitpick these things like this. Yeah. At the time, did anybody necessarily... If you're 8 years old, would there have been any connection like that you made? It's funny because, well, they just proved she didn't do it, and he's coming with her bail money. Ha, ha, ha. They don't need bail money. Okay, so it worked. It's funny. Yeah, so, and I say that just to say, well, yeah, I acknowledge that perhaps I'm being unfair, kind of, nitpicking this, but we got to have something to talk about.
Yeah, that's one of the fun things about these kinds of comics is to be able to nitpick the things that for us, because again, I don't remember if it was this episode or last episode. The people who the authors of today are a bit more sophisticated when it comes to telling a story. And for all we know, like you said, an 8-year-old read this back then, and to them it was like the first time somebody recently reading the freaking Da Vinci Code or something, just like, holy crap, how did he figure that out?
Right.
And so, yeah, but that's why these are kind of fun, is to point out those little ridiculous things that probably weren't ridiculous back then.
Right. That pretty much is everything I've got.
Yeah. It was a fun story.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It wasn't, the craziness of those Action Comics 26 and 27, the Wayward Boys Home, and
right, yeah,
and I don't remember the other one, but I think that 26 is the episode that came out today or yesterday as we're recording this, and that was, listening back to that was a lot of fun when I was editing and putting it together.
Remembering that story,
right?
Yeah,
but it's still just like, whenever I can have a top 3 craziest moments in an issue, because I sure didn't have that in the previous issue.
Right, yeah.
The previous episode. That's always a plus for me when I have to choose. I have different scenes to choose from as being crazy because there's so many of them. That is a top-notch book in my opinion.
Something that just struck me thinking about the previous episode / issue we talked about, which was Action 28, right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's a setting that you probably, you do see it sometimes today, but not that often. that traveling circusy carnival kind of thing in the early 21st century is a no bueno, pretty much. I mean, it just, it doesn't happen. We still have our state fairs, and I don't know, it probably occurs where you're at, but we have a couple different of those small carnival companies that will come through at different times of the year, and they'll set up in somebody's big parking lot and stuff like that. Not a big thing, maybe 20, 25 total things to do.
Yep.
So you have that, but I don't think that it is as widely perhaps understood as that roving circus kind of thing, especially now that Barnum and Bailey actually doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
They went under. So I don't know if there's another company that does that. I remember as a child living in Chicago, Illinois, I attended one of their shows.
Yeah.
Barnum and Bailey. That was cool.
I don't know if it was Barnum and there used to be a just within the last 15 years in Topeka, every year there'd be a circus because my father-in-law would take us and the kids.
Okay.
And I feel like it was Barnum and Bailey, but it may have been one of the Shriner circuses.
Shriner, right? Yeah.
But yeah, it was the whole trapeze artists, lion tamers. It was the whole thing.
Yeah. You just don't. It's not as ubiquitous now as it would have been in 1940. So, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. So, all right. Anything else, Steven?
Nope. Done with this one.
All righty, folks. We do want to thank you for listening. So until next week, I'm Ed. That is Steven. And this was the Superman Super Show.
Bye.
Ciao.
You've been listening to the Superman Super Show. Questions and comments can be directed to the Superman Super Show at gmail.com. You can follow the show on Twitter under the handle @Soups Super Show. That's @SUPS Super Show. And continue the conversation at the Super Show Forum at forums.justanotherfanboy.com. We also encourage you to rate the show wherever available and share this podcast with a friend. All links will be in the show notes.
Superman is a copyrighted feature appearing in Action Comics magazine.
And then my second favorite was it Atomic Ant that did Michael Jackson's
Alien Ant Farm.
Yes, or Alien Ant Farm. Okay, yeah.
About 2 weeks to a month before that song came out and hit, I was playing in one of the bands I played in, and I was heading to practice. And I think, the original version, Michael Jackson's version, the Gourds, Terry says.
Oh, okay. Not at all who I thought it was, but okay.
But the original Smooth Criminal comes on the radio, and I'm driving to practice, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, listen to that freaking groove. And I started to imagine it with just really heavy guitars. And so I get to practice that night, and I tell the guys, you know what we should cover? We should cover freaking Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson.
There you go.
And they looked at me like I was an idiot.
No,
and then
man.
3 to 4 weeks later, I'm like, see, guys, see?
If you'd have let me cover it, we'd have beat that.
You guys just need to listen to me every once in a while.
Sorry. Yeah.
Very nice. One of my favorite covers comes off of a Kiss tribute album called Kiss My Ass. And it's Rock and Roll All Night by a band called Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Yes.
And it's like a ballad, and I just love it. It's just one of my most favorite things to listen to.
I can hear Terry. She's playing that cover in the other room. The Gourds. Yeah.
Gin and Juice. Yeah. That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up. All right. I'm recording.
And I may be, yes, I am as well.